Okay. Once again, a big thank you to Alice, Nadav, and Denise. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm just going to do a quick intro of you all, and then we'll continue over to our panel. Alice Mills is a licensed mental health counselor, social entrepreneur, and also founder of Centering Wholeness Counseling and Embracing Community Care. And Alice is a psychology graduate of the class of 2013. So thank you for joining us today. Nadav is co-founder of Heart Space Therapy, a New York City-based private practice. And Denise Francis is the founder and CEO of the Self-Love organization, and also psychology graduate of the class of 2015. So again, a wonderful welcome to you all. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I'm going to jump in right to the questions because again, I think we have an exciting panel today. You're going to get an overview of people that are pursuing a PhD program, people that are doing a master's program, and of course, all three of our panelists have experience with their own business related to mental health counseling. So that's always exciting. And I'm happy that you all are joining in today to learn about their career paths. So the first question is going to go over to Alice and Denise. And then whoever wants to answer first, please feel free to jump in. But I kind of want to learn about what inspired you to pursue your degree in psychology over at City College of New York. And maybe I'll pass it over to Alice first.
Okay, that's fine. Hi, everyone. Thank you all for having me and thank you for being here. So for me, I didn't have a plan. So I know for most people, maybe they had a career plan, they sat down and they planned it out. I didn't have a plan. I was an immigrant and a child of an immigrant straight from Ghana. So I was just trying to figure out how to survive in a new country and how to make a new country my own. So I started from Bronx Community College. And while there, I was just considering my option. And City College was one of those places where I thought, okay, maybe I could get a psychology degree at City College. And like I said, I didn't even know what that entailed. Coming from Ghana, therapy, mental health wasn't part of career options. So for me, I was just thinking quick on my feet and just making it do as I go. So I went to City College actually twice. So for my bachelor's and for my master's in mental health. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Alice, for sharing. Denise, I'll pass over the same question to you. What encouraged you to pursue your degree over at City College?
For me, it was many things. Psychology has always been something I was interested in. I was always interested in just, what everyone says, the way the mind works. But that interest became real to me when my uncle went through a psychotic episode in which was hushed within the culture of my family. So it always seemed kind of weird as to what was going on with this family member. And it was something that was never explored. Just me being just interested in just the way the mind works and just listening to some of the things that he would say and looking at some of his behaviors, I became so interested in what was going on in that mind. And also as an only child to an immigrant myself, I spent a lot of time alone. So a lot of thoughts visited me during that time, and I became really interested in just the inner workings of the brain and how that related to emotions and behaviors. So then I was looking for the best CUNY to go to, and I chose City. I did a tour. I loved the campus. I really loved the programs that was available. There was really amazing psychology programs, but then also like masters, and some of them were mixed and combined, and it piqued my interest. And after visiting the beautiful campus, I decided to go ahead and do that. And then I also stayed at the Towers as well, although I'm from Brooklyn.
Thank you, Denise. And I have to say, for me also, the campus, I think, was one of the winning factors.
Yeah, you have the best campus, I'm just saying.
we have this recorded. We have the best campus. But thank you for that. Now over to Nadav. I know you completed your master's in mental health counseling, and this was in 2015 at City College. So I also want to know from you what encouraged you to pursue this degree at City College.
Yeah, that's a great question. before I got my master's, my route was a little bit like so I got my bachelor's in Israel, and then master's in human development from Cornell up in Ithaca, New York, and then my PhD at Columbia, and then decided to go back to my initial dream to become a therapist. So I would say both Cornell and Columbia were very, very white and not diverse, which for me was very challenging in many ways. And when I decided to become a therapist, it was very important for me to be in a significantly diverse, academic context where not only the student body is diverse, and that's with regards to race and ethnicity and sexuality and gender and size and disability and socioeconomic class, all of those things. It was also important for me to see, a diverse faculty and admins as well. So that was really the main factor for me. I will admit another factor was how gorgeous the campus was. And another factor was it was close to where I lived too, which I enjoyed.
Thank you for that, Adav. I think now we got to hear a little bit more about your journey here. Now we would like to jump into learning about what you do currently. So I'm going to start with some questions related to that. And again, I'll start with Alice because I have you first on my list. But if you can tell us a little bit more about your journey towards becoming a licensed mental health counselor. I also know you're a social entrepreneur. You founded centering wholeness counseling and embracing community care. So just if you can tell us a little bit more about that and how you got there.
Yeah, so my journey, I started after getting my master's from City College. I started with the requirements from the state to be licensed. So I'm currently in Columbus, Ohio, but I did most of my internship, getting my supervised hours in New York. So working in nonprofits, working in community-based mental health, and then awesome. And then I worked in a jail. So moving from jail, also working with survivors and all of those things. And that led me to get the hours to complete to become licensed. And while there, during the pandemic, there was an influx of people looking for mental health services, and specifically people were looking for Black therapists. And so I realized, okay, this is maybe something that I could do. So I decided to open up my own practice. That's what I do with Centering Wholeness Counseling. And then while also opening up the practice, I realized there were also people that I had to turn them away because we were a fee-for-service. And so that led to me thinking about opening a nonprofit as well, which would help us get funding so that we could provide low rate or free services to people. And all of the work that I have done have been centered on the experiences of Black and Brown people. And for me, that's important because in the psychology field or in the mental health field, that is often not centered or focused on, that I wanted to create spaces where Black people can come and be themselves, where their identity as a Black person is not kind of scrutinized or pathologized, but also celebrated. And when they come in, they get to see therapists who look like them, therapists who have similar experiences to their experiences. And adding on to that, I went in to get a PhD, and what I wanted to do with my PhD was also to create spaces for other Black therapists coming up as well, where they get to be supervised by somebody who looks like them, by somebody who has some of their experiences, by somebody who welcomes all their cultural background and doesn't make them feel othered or doesn't make them feel separated from the field. So the hope is to combine all of these experiences to create a space for Black clients and Black clinicians as well.
And I want to emphasize how important that is. And part of the reason why I thought everybody's career journey here from our panelists is so important is because I feel that you center this concept of having diversity, having representation within the field of mental health counseling. And I can't stress enough how important that is, especially as someone who's definitely participated and taken advantage of mental health counseling, right? It's a totally different experience when you get to see somebody that looks like you with you there, right? And through the entire journey. So again, thank you for the work that you're doing. Nadav, moving on to you, you also got inspired to co-found this space, Heart Space Therapy. And I wanted to know more about the this practice that you've developed. But also in addition to that, what do you think sets it apart from other private group practices that exist?
I would say that, before I even started the mental health counseling program at City, it was clear to me that I would want to have the option to create my own space where it would mainly serve, sexually and gender diverse folks in a way that very much like what you said, Alice, that I really resonated with, truly celebrates them, not just tolerates, not just accepts, not just is affirming, but rather celebrating their experiences and their identities. And so really that dream became more of a reality actually in the corridors of City College. I actually co-founded it together with a cohort member of mine that I met at City College. So in between classes, we would fantasize together about having an LGBTQ focused private practice. And after we graduated, we started working in the field a little bit, and then we said, are we going to do it? And so we actually did it. With regards to what are we doing to make sure that it is inclusive? The reality is that both me and Daniel, my co-founder, we're both white, we're both queer. I also identify as non-binary, identify as fat. And so those identities are really important to me. They're also very important to Daniel. And so we always say, for example, when we hire, we always say that there's nothing we can do about us being white. That's always going to be the case. And what we definitely want to make sure, and when it comes to creating supportive spaces for, budding clinicians of color to join us, is that in here we can talk about everything. I like to say that it's very likely that we're going to make mistakes, and whiteness is going to show up, and white supremacy is going to show up, and we're working hard for it to not show up. And when it does show up, can we talk about it, and can we work through it? I wish I could be in a place where I'd say, oh yeah, I don't have racist biases, I don't have white supremacist biases. I don't think that will be accurate. I think for me, the work is saying very clearly, white supremacy is steeped into the many ways in which my thinking was modeled to me and informed. And so if I want to be really anti-oppressive, and if I want to be someone who is hoping to create liberation, because liberation is for everyone, not just for some people, then my hope is to continuously, my approach is to continuously be very active and very open and honest about it. And I like to say that at Heart Space Therapy, we have the conversations that most of America don't like to have. And instead, there are a lot of there's a lot of violence instead of conversations.
I also think that's important. It's important for us to continue those conversations, and also being aware that it exists. So it's good to hear that within your practice, this is something that you're continuously working on, and continuously improving with your team. So thank you for that. Denise, I'll pass it over to you. In regards to your career path, I know that you worked on this journey of founding the Self-Love organization. I also know that you've developed some healing tools to help in the experiences related to mental health Black women. So I want to hear a little bit more about that. What has your experience been, and also what encouraged you to found the Self-Love organization?
Yeah, thank you. My journey, there was a lot of pieces that moved, a lot of that dropped, that kind of brought me to the space that I'm at now. When I entered City College in my freshman year, I decided that year that I was going to start a self-love journey, and I was going to start learning to love myself and being more confident and being more self-assured and have high self-efficacy and just accept who I am. That was the journey that I decided to go on. I'm like, it's my first year in college. New me, I'm going to just learn all the things that I've about myself that I've kind of pushed to the side or silenced for years. In starting that journey, that's when I started to realize that there is a big gap between self-love and mental health. That self-love is what we are marketed to be, which is face mask and getting your nails done and taking a vacation. But no amount of face masks and vacations and new external accessories are going to heal your inner child. And that's what I learned as I was working on my personal journey, as I was taking psychology courses. So as I'm going through my journey and realizing all these new things about myself, realizing that I am experiencing anxiety, that is something that lives in me, that has visited me for years, that I've, kind of pushed to the side for years. While taking courses, when I'm learning about anxiety and about depression, about coping mechanisms, and et cetera, it all started to make so much sense that never happened before, especially when you think about the story that I shared with you earlier about my uncle that was going through a mental health episode. So it all started to make sense to me. And as I'm going through my academic career, I started to question, where does wellness fit? Where does self-love fit in the conversation of mental health? And from the experiences that I had, it didn't fit. They were two separate entities, which I realized can be and should be whole in order to have holistic care, in order to heal your inner child, but then also learn more about self-acceptance and self-love and have that overarching feeling of confidence when you walk out the room. So for me, I really wanted to put those two things together. And after graduating with my psychology degree, I was looking for ways to do that. I was looking into master's programs and PhD programs. How can we mix wellness? Where does wellness fit in this conversation? How do I bridge that gap? But I wasn't finding anything that kind of resonated with me. I was only finding things that related to school counseling or general mental health counseling, or it looked like I would have to take like a broad approach and then try to kind of dibble down into it in my own, on my own time. And I didn't want to do that. So I struggled for a long time. And I went through so many highs and lows, so much anxiety, so much depression, because I felt like time was passing and I wasn't doing the next step. I wasn't getting my master's. I wasn't getting my PhD. I was just sitting here with my degree, trying to figure it out. And then I decided that, what if I make my own? That's when I decided to found the Self-Love organization. And what we do over at the Self-Love organization is create wellness tools, healing tools, and healing experiences for Black women. We bridge the gap between mental health and self-love to end the cycles of transgenerational trauma. Our goal is to make wellness, therapy, and healing more accessible and affordable, to be that one thing that can stop that cycle that continuously lives within the Black community. I chose to focus on Black women because I'm a Black woman myself, and because I've seen the strong Black woman trope kill different parts of the beautiful Black women that I admire. And me, myself, decided to be a strong Black woman at 9 years old, and realized that I never allowed myself to be little Black girl. I've always seen myself as a woman or a strong Black woman, and not being able to kind of live in that childhood, or not being able to just experience life through a childlike mind because of being, you know, the only child of an immigrant. So many obstacles has stopped that, which made me realize that Black women are the heads of our culture, the heads of our households, majority of the times, the heads of our tables. And there's so much generational healing that can happen with healing a Black woman. So my goal is to heal Black women because there's power in a Black woman starting a self-love journey. So that's why I created the self-love organization. And that's how my career kind of started into being a founder and CEO and creating these spaces for Black wellness and Black mental health to thrive.
This is all very powerful. And again, I have to say that I'm excited for all three of our panelists, because again, I want to echo all of the work that you're doing. And I think you're right too, in that sense. I want to echo some of the comments in the chat as well. I think Isabella mentioned that, my apologies, mentioned that sometimes we find ourselves stuck in this reality and we try to stay busy, right? For us to not think about these other things that might be going on in our life. And I think the approach that you're taking in terms of it being holistic is so important, again, because there's different aspects of our experience. There's aspects of our lived experience that can come back, right, in different ways. And when they come back in different ways, right?
Yeah, they show up in spaces that they don't belong. I always say that if you don't heal your inner child, if you don't heal the trauma that you're constantly experiencing that always comes and visits you, it's going to visit you in a space that it doesn't belong. And then you have to come face to face with it. And that's a whole nother conversation in itself.
Right. So no, I appreciate the comment that you made on that. So thank you. And Denise, I'll stay with you just because I think it aligns with what you've mentioned so far. But you're pursuing your master's degree in self-love, self-therapy, and the Black mental health experience. So again, congratulations on that. But I want to know, how did that come up for you, you know, in your career trajectory, and also what encouraged you to pursue this path after college, and how did you make it happen?
Oh, wow. So that had a lot to do with what I just shared earlier, in the sense of I felt stuck. I felt like I don't want to pick wellness and, you know, become like a yoga teacher. Mind you, this is like 2015, like the scope of what wellness could be or what it means. It's very small at the time. So I didn't want to pick, like, maybe I should just be a yoga teacher or something in that space. I didn't want to pick that, or just pick being a mental health counselor. I didn't want to pick. And because of that, the self-love organization was born. But in the midst of that, I still had dreams of getting my master's and dreams of getting higher education. And I still looked in between creating my company and building it. And I still felt stuck. I felt like I had to choose, and I really didn't like that option. One day, just by the grace of God, as I'm scrolling through my phone, I see an ad for NYU's Gallatin School. And basically, the ad shares that the Gallatin School is a school in which you can mix disciplines together to create a unique concentration for your master's. And I was like, that sounds like what I want to do. Like, maybe I can finally mix wellness and healing and mental health, and then even more specifically, Black mental health, and then to go further in detail, self-therapy, which is the tool that I'm creating, one of the tools that I have, which is a journal. We call it the Journal That Feels Like Therapy. It's a therapist-approved healing tool with 115 self-guided therapy questions. It kind of feels like you're speaking to a therapist because the questions dig deep and allow you to explore parts of your mind that you've silenced. And I felt like this program might be perfect for me. So of course I went to an info session and called sick out of work. I was like, oh, guys, I'm sick. Went to this info session, and I asked tons of questions, and they basically said that if you have an idea, but it requires multiple disciplines, this is your space. So all you would need to, well, not all, but what you would need to do is basically propose it. You have to propose a new concentration, propose a new idea. So with all the work that I've done, at the Self-Love organization. All the tools I've created, all the healing experiences I've created, all the work I've done with therapists and counselors and etc. I used all of that to pitch the idea of healing Black women to heal a generation. And the way to heal Black women would be to start a self-love journey. And the way to do that would be to implement a new form of kind of self-administrated therapy, which I like to call self-therapy, in which you can use tools or use healing experiences, community-based experiences to open the doors of what mental health is. So I pitched this idea, it got accepted, and then I started my career at NYU, creating the first concentration of this kind, in which when I completed, I'll be the first woman to have a master's with the concentration of self-love, self-therapy, and the Black mental health experience.
And again, this is all wonderful. And I see comments in the chat. I want to learn more about this particular program. And yes, definitely congratulations on this. Thank you for sharing. I'll go over to Alice now, because Alice, I know you're also pursuing your PhD right now. And oftentimes this is a common question for students. I know it was a question for me, but whether or not to pursue a master's program, whether or not to pursue a PhD program after graduation. So did you know you wanted to pursue your PhD right away? And what prepared you for that path? But in addition to that, what advice would you give to students that are considering a path within a PhD program after college?
Yeah. So like I shared in the beginning, none of all the things that I'm doing at the moment were planned, or I didn't sit down to take a pen and a paper and plan it out. I did it as I go. So after completing my master's degree and supervising people for a while, I realized that there is really a gap in supervision when it comes to counselors. In New York State, the moment you are independently licensed, you could supervise if you want without any training or anything like that. And for me, I felt like that was doing a disservice to counselors that are being supervised. So I wanted to get the education of what it means to be a supervisor, learn the theories and all of those things, and provide the best supervision to the people that I will supervise. And the other thing was also representation is really important to me, that I also realized people were not equipped to support Black and Brown people when it comes to their mental health and all of those things, that there were misdiagnoses, research that are sometimes biased, all of these things that I felt like, okay, as a supervisor and using my research and all of that, I could help people, because I can only provide services to a few clients, but in being in the position of a supervisor, I can help other counselors provide services to Black and Brown people. So that is how I decided to pursue a PhD in counselor education and supervision. So I started in 2019. I am about to go into my dissertation in next month. And during that process, I also became an NBCC fellow, which is a great fellowship. So if there is anybody here thinking about a PhD, they have a fellowship both in psychology and in counselor education and supervision. So it's been really great, the support that I've gotten from them. They were able to help me out. My project for my fellowship was starting my practice, so I was able to do that with a fellowship and also with funding to support my PhD journey, funding to go to conferences, to go to symposium. All of those things have been great. For anybody thinking about all of these things, I'm a therapist, so let me therapize you a little bit. Let the therapist in me come up a little bit. I think sometimes we get anxious about the future and we worry so much about what the future is going to be. And we feel like, oh, I have to have a plan. I have to have all of these things planned out and all of that. But the thing is, sometimes you could have a plan, and then when you get there, life would happen and life will throw you a different curve. And sometimes your plan could get in your way of you pursuing your life when maybe the direction that you need to take isn't on your plan. So I would say allow life to happen to you sometimes. Allow life to come to you. Allow your experiences to teach you and to direct you in the path that you need to go, or the path that you need to take. So if you're here and you're thinking about a PhD, or you're not thinking about it, if you're here and you're like, I don't know what my career is going to be like, that is a great place to be. That is, you are in the great place. You are not supposed to have it all figured out. I don't know what the next 5 years of my life is going to be like. I don't even know what tomorrow is going to be like, but I know that I am curious, and I'm also open to whatever life throws at me. And I think that has helped me to navigate life and to reduce anxiety and all of those things, that every day I wake up with that curiosity that, okay, whatever happens, I am flexible, I am adaptable. I think that's the strength of being an immigrant in a new country. You have to adapt, you have to be flexible and all of those things. So that is the advice that I would say as a therapist. It's a little bit therapy-like, but that is the advice that I would say for anybody here who is facing that or thinking about that.
I'm so happy you said that. I'm so happy you said that, because I felt like I had to rush. I felt so stuck. The only reason I felt stuck was because I was running instead of just walking into whatever path was set out for me. And I 100% agree with you. It's not until I focused on what brought me joy or what I was passionate about, creating my organization, that this opportunity came. If I just hurried up and picked something, I would not have created the self-love organization. I wouldn't have become a TEDx speaker. All the things that happened because of the work that I put in from walking made such a big difference. So I 100% second that.
And I think it's something that honestly a lot of us needed to hear today. And we purposefully, the way we structured this is targeting our seniors, our juniors, right? Who, might be thinking about this right now, especially for our seniors who are approaching graduation, but also many of our alums early in their career, right? Often, I myself included, often thinking about what's to come next. And just to share an anecdote with you all, I took a class, and this was a business economics related class. And I was encouraged, one of the assignments was for us to think about our 5-year plan. And it was for credit, so we had to complete it. But I remember just feeling so overwhelmed and honestly stressed, because I just didn't know what was going to happen the next semester for me. And just the way things turned out, I would have never expected. I came back eventually to City College. Now I'm working for the Office of Student Success. I'm working for the school that eventually gave me my initial start. So I would have never imagined that. So thank you for that advice. I think it's important for us to give ourselves time and space, not have everything figured out. So it's good to have that in our minds as reinforcement. And I'll flag also for everybody here as a former student, I think it's so important for you to put yourself out there. There's so many free resources, so many conferences that I found out later after graduating that you can go to if you're still a college student. So definitely put yourself out there in terms of taking advantage of those resources, right? So thank you for sharing that. I'll go over to Nadavna now. So you're conducting research right now, and I wanted to know more about the research that you're conducting. And I know it's around the intersection of stigma, shame, mental health, sexuality, and gender. So what insights have you gained from it, and also what encouraged you to pursue this particular area of research?
Wow, that's a big question, Leslie.
Take your time.
Yeah, well, I would say, when I started my bachelor's in psychology back in Israel, I started it with the thinking that I will become a therapist. And within the first semester, I was so I guess really surprised, sad to see that there is very little research about the mental health of LGBTQ folks. And the research that does exist is very deficit based, is very much focusing on all the struggles and the challenges and the disparities that I definitely believe are critical to address and to document and to discuss. It just felt to me like something important is really missing, which is also the strengths, the resiliencies, the powerful stories when it comes to the experience of LGBTQ people, to the communities, to the history of the community and the movements and communities. So I decided to just shift to research, and then I started kind of focusing my career, my academic journey rather, into doing research, and landed on doing my research on, we know the stigma and discrimination leads to many negative mental health outcomes, along with other negative outcomes. And I also saw, among many people in communities that I am part of, that there are a lot of strengths, and I wanted to document them. I wanted to talk about how stigma and discrimination also, made people experience a lot of growth. So not justifying by any means stigma and discrimination, but rather say, well, stigma and discrimination is here. And so we see actually a lot of LGBTQ people, being very empathetic and creative and socially intelligent, and adaptive in many ways, and activist and very open-minded. So a lot of things that their experiences of discrimination actually led them to develop those qualities. And some of the other kind of research that I do is things that I think partly came from my own kind of experience of stigma and shame and how it impacts my mental health. As a queer, non-binary, fat, immigrant too, a lot of different identities. I just wanted to make sure, and this is kind of what I'm focusing now, of creating research that will inform mental health providers to provide the best care for communities that often are very stigmatized and marginalized. So a lot of my research now is, for example, providing mental health service to people who engage in sex work. Another line of research is probably the most stigmatized community I can think of, and it's people who are attracted to minors. It's a big passion of mine now. So creating loving spaces for people who are attracted to minors and are committed to never engage in sexual or romantic relationships with minors.
Thank you, Nadav, for your insight on this as well. I'm also looking at the time, and I feel like I still have a lot of questions that I would love to get to ask you all. But just considering time, and also we want to leave opportunities for some of our students and alums to ask questions to you all. I'll keep it brief to another question, and so we'll do another round of questions, and this is the same one for everybody. But the next one is, I just want to get a sense, again, this is a group of students, group of alums, but I'm interested to hear, like, what advice would you give to students and also professionals who want to succeed in the field of mental health and also in psychology? What advice would you give? I'll pass it on to Denise.
That's a big question. There's so much that I want to say, but I'll try to minimize it as much as possible. The first thing I would say is to get a mentor. My mentor at City College was life-changing. I don't think you can understand the level of life-changing. I want you to understand that without my mentor, I would not be here. And then even after our mentoring cycle kind of ended, because I graduated, I still connected after, of course, I still went out and found myself another mentor. And you may be asking, I'm not sure if this is a problem for you, but for me, I remember when I was at City, I was just how do I find someone that can give me that attention that I need? And to be frank, you go out and ask. The mentor that I have today, I reached out to her on LinkedIn, got a phone call with her and was like, could you be my mentor? I feel like you will be great guidance to me. And she was like, sure, just like that. Now, not to say that's always going to be the case, but you would never know until you try. And you can get tons of no's, but that one yes can change your life. My mentor at City College is actually Sophie Barrett. I don't know if you guys are taking that or her classes, but she is outstanding. Someone else that I connected with and was like, can you be a mentor? And I'm so grateful that she has always been there, has always been supportive. I was always able to bounce ideas. So that's just, I can't stress the fact of you don't have to do it alone. And I know that we think we do, but let me just be the first one to tell you, you don't have to do it alone. You don't have to figure it out on your own. You might have navigated life on your own, but you're in a space where you don't have to. So please use the resources that are around you. Find someone that you connect with. If that person is unavailable, find somebody else. You will find the person that was meant to be your guide. So please do that. That's number one. As an undergrad, as a graduate, you can never not be successful with having somebody on your team, on your side at all times. That's number one. Number two would be to be open-minded in your end goal. So for me, I've always envisioned myself being a therapist. So I'm going to go get the psychology degree to be a therapist so that I can go get my master's and then get my PhD, and I'll be a psychologist, a therapist, etc. I'm now starting to realize almost, I don't even know how long it's been, almost 10 years since I've graduated, where I'm realizing that I might not be the therapist, but I might be the organizer of the therapist. That's the role that I'm going to take. That's the work that I'm doing at the Self-Love organization, connecting Black women with Black therapists, making therapists available and accessible and affordable for them. I am not the therapist, but they are. So please keep that in mind as well. Try not to run, but walk. And as you're walking, you'll start to get different ideas of how you can create a career that is perfect for you, a career that inspires you, that you're excited about. Every day I wake up and figure out new ways to make healing tools or experiences for Black women. And if you asked me what I was going to do with my psychology degree as an undergrad, I would have told you that I was going to be a therapist. I never knew that this is the space that I would have been in. So my number two piece of advice is to walk, not run, to your final destination, to your end goal. And number one, use the resources around you. You don't have to do it alone. And three, just, of course, the most cliche one, believe in yourself. Don't think that you made the wrong choice. Have faith that you're making the right choice. So with that last one, use the first two steps, and I guarantee that you'll get to the destination that you want to get to. You'll reach your end goal. You'll make your parents proud. You'll be the first organizer, the first PhD, the first master's, whatever it is in your family, but you have to walk and not walk alone. I hope that was helpful.
These are all gems. And again, I'm happy that we're recording this so we can share back again with our students and alums. I think this is necessary for a lot of us to hear. So thank you. I'll pass on the same question to Nadav. What's one piece of advice that you would give for students and professionals that want to succeed in the space of mental health and psychology?
Maybe I'll start by saying the mental health field needs every one of you here, needs you desperately. There is a great need for providers right now in the field, and especially providers of color, provider that are LGBTQ, provider of different, socioeconomic backgrounds, sizes, you name it, immigration status, speaking different languages. There is a great need. So no, I guess what I want to make sure that you hear very clearly is that you are very much needed. And another thing I would say is that I find both in my personal experience and professional experience that many of us has a voice that lives in our head. And this voice can be, some people call it the inner critic, some people call it the gremlin, whatever, so many different names for that voice. And that voice is such a destructive one, as a voice that doesn't necessarily is here to always push us to success. And I guess what I would say is, I know that I work very hard to fight that voice and to instead motivate and encourage everyone here and everyone that I get to meet that is especially newer to the field to advocate for themselves. There is nothing wrong ever in asking for what you need. You might not get it, but there is never anything wrong with asking for what you need. And one last thing I would say, the mental health field has a lot, and especially the therapy world has a lot to grow, especially when it comes to creating a welcoming and truly supportive space for diverse providers. So I hope you can take that with a grain of salt. I don't want to tell you or to encourage you to be the educators. But as you see, there are pioneers here that are paving the way. And there are also a lot of people out there who really want the same change, even if they don't share your identities. And the last thing is, feel free to reach out to me too, if I can be of help and support you.
And Alice, I'll pass the question to you over as well before we head to our Q&A.
Yes. So I would say the first thing that I would say is that your identities and the things that make you feel like, oh, I'm not going to be a great professional or a great therapist and all of that, those are your strengths. Use them. Those are the things that's going to make you unique. Those are the things that your clients are going to connect to. So the things that you don't feel too great about, the things that you want to hide, those are the things that are going to make you great in this field. So use them and embrace them as well. The second thing that I would say is that create your own space. Now we live in a field where a time where people are doing so many things with their degrees in mental health. Denise is here. She's talked about it. People are writing books. People are on reality shows. People are having documentaries. Create your own path. So if you go out there and there is something that you feel like, okay, this is not here, or this is what I want to see in the space, you go out there and you create it, because somebody is looking out for you, or somebody is looking for you to create that. And the last thing that I would say is that you are going to be a disappointment to some people in life, in your career path. Welcome it. Make sure that the disappointment that you're going to be is a disappointment that you can confidently and happily stand by that disappointment. You're not going to make everybody happy. You're not going to be for everybody. If you become a therapist, there are people that are going to hate you. They are going to hate how you practice as a therapist. They are not going to like how you talk, all of that. It's fine. You are going to disappoint them. So embrace it. So that's what I would say to that.
Thank you again for all the wonderful advice. And I want to open it up to everybody that's joining us today on our Zoom also. We're going to be monitoring the chat, but also if you just want to raise your hand and take an opportunity to ask our panelists some questions, please feel free to do so. We're going to start our Q&A right now.
So maybe I see that there was a question in the chat about mentorship, like something that you would look for in a mentor. I think Michelle asked that question.
I can answer that one. So just also for insight, one of the main reasons I looked for mentorship or just any form of support is because I'm, as I shared, an only child, immigrant parents. This whole idea of college, I had to do the whole thing on my own, filled everything out on my own, scouted on my own, all the things on my own. And when I got here and felt like I was struggling or felt confused, I didn't know which way to go. I just decided I might as well just ask. Like, I'm out of school, like, who said I had to do this by myself? I might as well ask, I might as well look out. So what I looked for was someone that, like, the number one thing I looked for was someone that looked like me. I wanted someone that I can easily connect with. I didn't want to feel like I had to mask myself in any way, shape, or form when communicating or connecting, because some of your mentoring experiences won't just be, should I do this program or should I not do? Sometimes it's you venting on, I think I made the wrong decision and I shouldn't have gone to this program, or I should have done this, or I should have done that. Or, my mom is expecting me to make this amount a year and like, I can't guarantee that. And you're like the pioneer of the family, so you can't really make any mistakes. And it's a lot to carry. So having someone that looks like you or that has gone through similar things can A, reassure you, and B, actually give you the support that you need, because they know what they would have wanted to hear at that age, at that time, because they've experienced it. So finding someone that looks like you, that was my number one when looking for a mentor. And then two, it didn't have to be someone that was like, like CEO of this and that. It has to be someone that believes in you, that connects with you, and someone that you are inspired by. Like, you're inspired by their climb to success. You're inspired by what they're doing. You see how much they care about their students or about whoever they're mentoring or about whatever they're passionate about. That's my number one for me. So someone that looks like you, that can connect with you, and someone that you can see is clearly passionate about what they do, and someone that you feel like you can trust. With my mentor, I felt 100% safe at all times. I felt like I could be open, I can be honest. I didn't always have to show up as super professional Denise, because sometimes Denise just needed a pat on the back to say that you got this, or that you should pitch this, or you should do this. So it's really important that when you're looking for a mentor, that you're looking for someone that can inspire you, that has the experience, and someone that you can relate to.
Can I jump in and say maybe one thing about that I think is really important in looking for a mentor? Many people, I believe, can mentor other people to be like them. And that's not necessarily the kind of mentorship that many of us are maybe looking for. So I don't necessarily know how to say, what to look for, but notice if you feel like this mentor is teaching you to be like them instead of, cultivating your own voice and cultivating your own strength and your own path, I think will be important too.
Yeah, I think that's what makes a good mentor, someone that is pushing you to be the best version of you. Because I've been pushed by my mentor to be the best version of myself. Someone that genuinely cares about your success, not how it's going to look on them if you're successful, if that makes sense. And I think that as psychology majors here, I think we can all make a good judge of character from the people who we're connecting with, to have an idea of what that person's true intentions are. But with my mentor, she pushed me, but she supported me to be me, and to be the best version of myself, and to start the business and to do all the things. So yeah, I completely agree.
Thanks. I think Nakari has had their hand up for a little while. So Kari, we'll go to you.
Yes, I did. First of all, I just wanted to give you guys the thanks because you guys said a lot of nice things and a lot of tips that I'm guessing a lot of psychology students really need to hear, especially when we're getting towards the end and a lot of nervous and anxiety starts piling up. So I guess my question was about that. How did you guys ever deal with I I totally forgot the word, but it's oh god, syndrome. Oh, imposter syndrome. Did you guys ever deal with imposter syndrome, and how did you guys deal with that?
Yeah, not anymore, not in this current state. I do get anxious about things, and what I've come to realize, or how I frame imposter syndrome, especially for me, as a Black woman, it's being in spaces that were not made for me, or that were not welcoming, and not seeing people who look like me, or my experiences and the experiences of my community being uplifted. So for me, I have come to understand that it wasn't necessarily imposter syndrome that I was facing, but it was a lack of connection and a lack of support that I wasn't getting. But of course, I was nervous. Of course, I was anxious. So when I was able to tease that out, okay, I'm anxious, I'm nervous, it doesn't mean that I don't know what I'm doing as well. So like you're saying, if you're in your last year, take a breath and reflect. You have been able to complete a degree at City College. You have written papers, you have done group assignments. Think about all the path that led you to this point. If you didn't know anything, I don't think you will be here. You know so much that you are not giving yourself credit for. So even the ability to be here, it's enough. So hopefully you can own that, you can reflect on that and own it, that you are graduating, that you have a lot already. So there is nothing missing that you need. You have all that it takes. And you have all that it takes to also figure it out when you go into the world. Of course, you don't have to know everything. That's the thing about life. So you're not missing anything. You are not an imposter. I would, if anybody listening, you are not an imposter. You are a human being navigating this world, a world that is supposed to be for all of us, but it's not. So you are not an imposter. You are a human being. You have all the resources. You have all the skills. You have all that it takes. And congratulations, yeah.
So we have a ton of questions in the chat, and I see one hand up, but maybe I'll combine two of the questions. There was a question about what qualities make for a good therapist, and how maybe people choose the right one. And also, how did you come to realize your own therapeutic style or model or theoretical orientation? I know that's a loaded question. Who wants to take that? Nadav?
Sure. Wow, what makes a good therapist? I think I personally like to think of therapy as continuously relational. So it's really about the relationship more than it is about just the therapist, right? It's a matter of fit. It's a matter of, what we might call the chemistry between the therapist and the client or the patient, however we want to call that dynamic. I know I can be a really good therapist for some people and a really not good therapist for many others. So what I definitely try to remind myself is, maybe that also will answer the last question, is that the experiences that I bring with me to the room, outside of all the theories and research and all of that, is already more than enough. And if people wanted theories and research, they would read the papers or Google it. People are not coming to therapy to be read a list of, things to do. Although maybe a good amount of us came to their therapist and said, well, just tell me what to do. And I mean, sure, I was, I did it before many times, and probably I'm continuing to do it from time to time because I'm just frustrated. People are looking to, I find that people are looking to connect. People want to see a human being in front of them, not a therapist who is doing an intervention on them. I'm continuously shocked when I think that in sessions, we reached like a really important insight and, oh my God, we did the work. And then the following session, I'm asking my clients, what stayed with you? And they said, what stayed with me is the story you told me about how you were angry with your son. And that really humanized you in my eyes. I'm like, and what about the insight? Which one? So people tend to remember and connect with their relationship. And the relationship, I find, is what actually allows for the transformation. With regards to my theoretical orientation, I think I'm clarifying very much that my orientation is relational mainly. And I find that different challenges require different interventions. And so in many ways, it's integration of things, and different people will need different things at different times. How I learned what it is that I'm more leaning towards is just experimenting and seeing what speaks to me, and feeling confident in this is what I do, and I'm going to be good for some people, but not going to be the best fit for others.
Thank you for that. There's a question about how you got your start, I guess, working in the clinical field, mental health field. Like, when did you get your first internship? How did you start working in the field? Denise or Alex?
Well, to clarify, I am not a therapist. So I don't necessarily have those experiences. My experiences is organizing experiences for Black women to experience therapy. If that, there was a lot of experience. But the work that I do is kind of bridging that gap and making therapy or therapists seem like a real person. So it can seem tangible. So it could not be like this myth, because for a lot of cultures, that's just not something that we talk about, or there's a fear related to therapists. I like to put Black therapists in a room with Black women who are interested or considering to kind of have an open conversation so that it doesn't seem as scary, so that they could, decide to connect with her later on to be their therapist, possibly. But something that I will add is that although I'm not a therapist, what I do offer is coaching. So I offer self-love coaching, and I got into that field by making a lane of my own. Similar to what Alice was sharing, that if you don't see a lane, create it. I didn't see a lane for something that kind of mixed wellness and self-love together with hints of mental health and etc. So with the amazing things I've learned at City, with the work I'm doing at NYU, I decided to just create my own and create those group experiences, those one-on-one experiences. And then something else that my organization offers is healing retreats, in which we go internationally and have retreats for Black women that are centered around self-love and workshops and therapy and etc. So I guess a good way to answer that question for someone who's not a therapist, so Alice, you can take us away, is to make your own. A lot of my entire organization is me creating my own lane and creating my own positions and creating positions for therapists to do the work that they want to do or that resonate with them. So I hope that was helpful.
Yeah, that was great. So you create your own job. I've heard that from others as well. Alice?
Yes. So in terms of, let's say you want to get into therapy and completing your required hours for supervision and all of that. I know at City College, there was a list of organizations that accept interns that you could choose from. And a lot of schools have lists like that. And if none of those lists work for you, you can always do a Google search for places. There are majority of places are always looking for interns because it's free work. I have my thoughts about that, but a lot of places are looking for interns and all of that. So that's a good place to start. And in terms of after graduation, New York City is such a big place with so many organizations, so many private practice, so many nonprofits that can help you. You could get a job to accrue your hours if you're looking to get licensed and all of that. Again, a Google search will do and all of that. You can also think about, is there a specific field or a specific population that you want to work in? Sometimes I recommend people not to box themselves, but if you're starting at the beginning, work with everybody. I have worked with children. I have worked with people who are unhoused, youth, all of those things. I've worked in a jail, so many different places and so many different people to kind of help me, okay, who is the actual person that I enjoy working with and collecting all of these experiences. So I would say open yourself up to working with everybody, and not, even if you know that this is the population that I want to work with, embrace other populations as well. You will be surprised how you enjoy working with those populations. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Alice. I just want to highlight, Debbie Chang just put a note in we have a great program that actually pays you a stipend if you find an unpaid internship. So please reach out to us because we can support students who might be in one of those dreaded unpaid internships. Diana, you have your hand up. You can unmute and ask your question. We're happy to answer it.
Yes, hello. I wanted to say thank you to Leslie for organizing this. It's so great to hear everybody's how they're doing. So I've always worked and studied, and originally I was actually doing engineering. It was great. I had a mentor and even had a great job, but I never felt like it was for me. So I recently started my switch to psychology. And of course, one of them, well, a few of the major things that I've been concerned about, it's okay, I need to get a master's and I need to get a PhD in comparison with engineering that was just 4 years. And I have a comfortable job and right off, like after 4 years in comparison to like PhD after 5 more years of schooling. Like, how did you guys deal with that? Like, financially, did you ever struggle financially, or did you ever feel like, when am I going to finish this?
I would say yes. I can relate to what you're saying as an immigrant and a child of an immigrant. My parents always reminded me that they didn't bring me to America to come and look at lights. They brought me here to make money. So I have to find a way to make money. So I understand what you shared. And at the same time, I wanted to be fulfilled in my life. I wanted to do something that was fulfilling, something that I would want to wake up every day to and do it. Even if I'm tired, I still look forward to sitting with my clients and working with them and all of those things. So trying to find a balance with that. If you're thinking about being a therapist, you don't need a PhD. There are programs, you could get a master's. There is social work. Hunter College has like an 18-month social work program that you could do. So there are different paths that you don't necessarily need a PhD. Me getting a PhD, I'm not going to get an extra license, so I'm not going to get an extra word to my license. It's going to be the same license that I have as a mental health counselor. Even with a master's degree, you can still do adjunct work if you're thinking about teaching and all of those things. So it's important that you know and you educate yourself. A PhD isn't everything. It's just going through the struggle for nothing. I would say there are so many things that you could do if you want to be a licensed therapist. And again, when it comes to money, like I said, people are creating their whole field. The wellness industry is $1 billion industry. And it's tech people who are taking all of those money. It's not the actual therapist, because sometimes we don't consider ourselves to be in that business field or to be doing that. You have an engineering degree. I am thinking of so many things that you could combine with engineering and psychology, and you could be making money. So there is so many things that you could do with your degree. Like I said, you create your own path with what you're learning. Don't wait for somebody to create that path for you. So in terms of the money, you're going to make money. There is a lot of things out there that you're going to do. You don't need a PhD to be practicing as a therapist.
Great advice. Just in the interest of time, I think we're going to just focus on one last question, but for each and every one of our panelists, what does self-care look like to each of you? And have you experienced burnout? I'm sure you haven't, but in case you have, tell us how you overcome it or how you come out of that. Denise, you want to kick us off because you're smiling and making eye contact.
I was like, am I going to take this one up? Yeah, so let's start with the burnout question. Have I experienced burnout? Absolutely, yes. How many times have it happened? More often than I would like to admit. How did I overcome it? I took a break. I think we forget that breaks are an option. I know that we have a lot of responsibility on us. There's a lot going on, a lot of expectations, but there is power in rest. And if you take a break, things will come to you. Things will naturally come to you. You'll have a clear mind and be able to kind of solve the problem that you've been struggling with. So for me, when I feel burnt out, I take a break. And that doesn't mean going on a lavish vacation or doing anything fancy. Sometimes that's just taking some days off and just spending it with myself. And kind of, there's something that I like to do. I call it meetings with myself, where I kind of like sit at a table as if I was having a meeting like with a large group of people and kind of like separate the different parts of my mind. Like anxiety, you sit over there, you're not allowed to speak right now. You know, all the different parts of me, like everyone just take a seat and let's figure this out. Like, why am I having this problem? Why am I feeling this way? Am I feeling this way because of you, anxiety? Yes. Okay. Well, you're not allowed to speak right now. Let's talk to someone else. Let's talk to problem solving version of Denise. Let's talk to, you know, inner child version of Denise, inner teenager. Let's talk to all the different parts of Denise to figure out how could we fix this problem and how could we, yes, just like that. Yes. Someone just said, just like the Pixar movie Inside Out, just like that. The different parts of you, there is so much power in talking to yourself, and just take time to listen. That's how I kind of broke out of any burnout shell that I had. At one point, I took almost a year off from building my business. And after that, we had our most successful year. So just take a break when it comes down to burnout. As far as what the self-love, self-care looks like for me, it's an abundance of many different things. For context, I like to look at myself in a multifaceted way. I look at myself spiritually, emotionally, socially, all of the different things. And I make sure that there is a spark of joy in each one of those categories. And that's how I create kind of like a 360 wellness plan for myself. So that's my self-care is not something that happens only on Sundays or only on one day of the week. It's something that happens every day. And I make sure that I tick all of those boxes. I do something that sparks joy in each one of those sections. This is also something that I work on with my clients to make sure that self-love is something that is tangible. So it can't be something that only happens one time of the week or only when you go to, you know, go to Jamaica, only when you go to this place. It has to be something that you can self-administer from home at that moment every day. So I make sure, especially the three main pillars I make sure that I focus on is mind, body, and soul every day, and make sure that I do something within those things that spark joy. Recently for me, when it comes down to mind, I love me a good meditation in the morning, but lately it's been more of me just doing my morning prayers and just setting my intentions for the day. When it comes down to body, I've been going outside and playing tennis. I am not a professional, but I just have a good time listening to my music in the park early in the morning. It's empty and just like having a good time, losing the ball. I lost like 3 balls this week, whatever. You can always buy those on Amazon. And then when it comes down to soul, I do something that sparks joy, like dancing, talking to friends, connecting with family, something that's going to bring that joy. So for me, it's small sparks of joy in all the aspects of my life to make sure that I'm holistically taking care of myself.
Thank you. Nadav, you want to go next?
Sure. Wow, self-care is for me can be hard to continuously remind myself to engage in, if I'm being honest. What I definitely do for my self-care is I move my body, so that's typically some sort of a workout. Yes, or like dancing or something like that. I go to therapy. In fact, I have more than one therapist. And I stay connected as much as I can, because when I'm down, I tend to isolate myself. So I'm working hard to break through my programming of isolating and instead reaching out to friends and reaching out to people who love me, and I can love them back and I can feel connected. Staying in community is probably the best form of self-care for me. I think there is something about self-care that is almost a misnomer, self-care in the sense that, yes, self-care is about yourself. And also any form of self-care is also collective care. If I'm going to take good care of myself, I can show up in my at least better self in every place, in every relationship, in every context where I'm part of. So I always like to think and encourage myself that self-care is also collective care. It's a care for the community. Have I experienced burnout? Absolutely, because I did what Denise said not to do, and I absolutely ran. After I graduated from City, I wanted to get all my hours and get my license, and I can't even believe I'm saying it out loud, and it's recorded. God bless. At one point I had 5 jobs and 37 clients. And I don't know this girl anymore. I don't know how I did it, but it's in the past. And yes, after that, I absolutely experienced burnout. And rest was for me critical. I like to think about it as like going to the gym, right? If we want to grow muscle, if we want any kind of growth, we need to work out, we need to exert ourselves, and then we need to rest, because that's the only way to grow. So trying hard to rest, which I'm going to do after today's panel.
Much well deserved on all of this. I know we're at time. Cynthia, thank you so much for helping with the Q&A. I want to give another round of thank yous to everybody. Again, Alice, Denise, Nadav, thank you so much. I think you all shared so many gems. I have to call them that way because they're gems. Thank you so much for sharing that with our students and also with our alums. And to our participants, if we didn't get to answer your questions, we apologize, we're short on time, but I do encourage you, I added some links for you to connect on LinkedIn. I encourage you to do so. Again, I just think our panelists are wonderful connections for you to have and for you to keep learning about some of their career trajectories after City College. So I shared that in the chat, and also if you feel like sharing your contact information, please feel free to do so. But I think that wraps up our session. And again, thank you so much for making this such a success. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Good night, everyone. Be well.
Bye, everyone. Thank you so much.